Oh, it is. They are in here.
You guys are in like an office, like professionals.
They let us in here from time to time.
I can't even believe they let you in there. Do they know what kind of riffraff you are?
I can see them letting Margaux in, but not me.
I'm Rebecca Kirstein, and this is Tom Hudock, and we are the co-founders of Rethink Thinking. So we are an organization that is dedicated to preparing our youth for the coming era of innovation. So we're rethinking thinking about education and about learning, and instead of testing and measuring knowledge, we need to develop the skills and character traits that matter more tomorrow in our youth: creativity and collaboration and critical thinking. So that's the goal of the Rethink Thinking Foundation. And we are intending to be an incubator for creativity and innovation, and to create resilience and bravery needed in youth that allows them to continuously rethink thinking. So we're here today with Joshua and Margaux, who are unschooling parents, which is very cool, and the owners of the best deodorant in the world, which I'm actually wearing today.
Yay.
Amazing.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working. It's working. And you guys make natural, organic, cruelty-free deodorant look sexy, which I think I speak for that.
Wow, thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
So you started this out of your kitchen 8 years ago, and you are now found in stores online worldwide. This is correct, right?
Yes.
And this year is the launch of your new formula and packaging, which I have, thanks to you guys, which looks beautiful, by the way. And your passion for helping families understand the importance of eliminating toxins, living sustainably, and using amazing natural products that don't harm our bodies, animals, or the planet is so inspiring. So we are so happy to have you guys here chatting with us. And you guys also consult with parents on how to start a company like yours from scratch, and how to create an income while staying at home with their families. So we totally get behind that, because of course that is what we do as well. And we're thrilled to be working with you guys. So you guys are, I think, among the people that we would consider to be incredible people who are also rethink thinking, and rethinking your own thinking consistently when it comes to parenting and education and relationships and business and social change. So we're doing a series of interviews with other explorers like ourselves who are out there doing just that. So collectively, we can all learn from each other and explore new ways of thinking. So we're exploring what matters, and we're excited to be doing that with you guys. So thanks for being here, Josh and Margaux.
Yeah. Amazing. That was an awesome introduction.
Yeah, I'm going to just bring you with us everywhere we go.
So
that was amazing.
I want to start by saying I love what you guys are doing too. Like, it's just amazing. We're on the phone for a reason. We're connected for a reason. And you guys are really, like, you're going to change a lot of families and a lot of, systems and it's the way the world's going. And you guys are like pioneers in this. So I love it. Thank you for everything you're doing. Well,
thank you for everything you're doing, and for being a part of our little quest here too. Mm-hmm. So I think I want to start with the fact that clearly you guys are a couple and a family that is driven by inquiry, much like we are. So I'd love to talk to you guys about what is your sort of biggest, deepest inquiry that you embarked on as a couple and as a family that's really impacted your family.
Sure. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you start.
Yeah, we're going to have different ones.
Of course you will.
As you do, yeah.
You wouldn't be a normal couple if you didn't.
So it's been a journey. So even before we had kids, we knew that the traditional education system wasn't going to be for our family. It is probably based on both of our different experiences in that system. But we definitely knew that wasn't going to be for us. But then it was this whole journey of like, what is for us? And what does that look like? And once we started asking those questions and inquiring into that model, and now mind you, like, our oldest child is 6. He just had his 6th birthday yesterday, and we have a 3-year-old and an 11-month-old almost. So like, we're not at high school or middle school. That's a whole different bag of tricks. But up until this point, it's just been endless. So it started with, okay, well, we want to homeschool. And then that evolved to, okay, we don't really want to homeschool. Maybe we want to unschool, when we discovered what that term was. And then it was like, well, we don't really fit exactly unschooling. And then it was all these different labels that we kept trying to fit into. And we really came down with, I don't know if someone made up this term or coined it, but just free schooling. and world schooling. So we've kind of traveled the world with our kids and allowed them to learn through experience and learn through asking their own questions and learn through literally taking them into the woods and, you know, teaching them how to survive and teaching them skills and letting them question everything.
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And like, I just want to piggyback on what Josh is saying about our children are young, but what's refreshing to us is we have a lot of families in our life now who parent this way, who go through life this way. It's their philosophy now. And it's so nice seeing the result. Like, it's so nice seeing older children who've gone through sort of like their parents allowing, or their parents, you know, just going free with them and trusting them to learn what they need to learn. And we've met some incredible young people who have who've grown up this way. So our children are young, yes, but I'm really excited because we already see the fruits of our labor. Because as you guys know, it's not the easy way out, is it? It's a very active way to parent. It's not passive.
Well, especially for you guys. I mean, come on, you got 3 kids under the age of 6. You guys are doing a lot of sitting around over there.
There's no.
We laugh now,
Yeah.
but
We laugh because we're alone right now.
The 4 hours of sleep last night, kind of, yeah.
And you guys are hanging out with us. I mean, really, you should be on a date somewhere.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
This is a great way to live.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, I just want to say one more thing about that question. This journey, and based on what Margaux said, you are completely and fully engaged when you take this path. You know, it's incredible that you guys are bringing this to light and really helping more parents and youth see this. And a lot of people look at us from the outside like, oh, you're lazy parents. Well, you know, we've moved to different parts of the world to try different forms of education programs and facilitators to see how it felt, because they weren't available in our area where we were from. So, you know, we moved to Central America, we moved to the West Coast of Canada to try different types of programs. And even though we got to experience them and our kids got to experience them, they still didn't resonate with us. They were definitely far better than the traditional form, but they still didn't resonate with who we were. You know, we're entrepreneurs. We want to spend as many waking moments with our children as possible, as well as making sure that they're going to be set up for the new future, not what we've come through and not what the past was.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
over your interview questions. Yeah. As they were totally taking over your interview questions. We can talk for
the point is you guys, you know,
you may want to guide us to what you would like to hear here today, because we're really, I do have something else to say, which is for parents who, I get this a lot, Rebecca and Tom, about parents who always say, well, you know, I'm not qualified to be at home with my kids, or have them in an alternative education that's not giving them the ABCs and the math and all of this. Or they say, we don't, you know, whatever excuse, like money, not qualified. I want to tell those parents that to take the pressure off themselves, because all that we are doing is guiding them, providing the resources. We just have a library and just some stuff that directs the child to see what they're interested in. So it's not like a lot of pressure on the parent to teach anything. So I like to get that out there, because we get a lot of that. I don't know about you guys, but
we do. And it's a huge misconception, I think, not only in free schooling or unschooling or amongst parents, but even in terms of school, as far as formal education goes, that an inquiry-based learning program that is actually self-directed by students is cheaper. It's less costly to run a program that way. Even though you're sometimes providing different resources for different students as they inquire in different paths, that's actually less costly than running a curriculum-based program. And I think our partner, Jeff Hopkins, has proven that with his school, the Pacific School of Innovation and Inquiry here in Victoria.
Amazing.
So that can be done in a more formal way too. So I think that's a really good point, is that it doesn't have to be an incredibly costly thing. And it doesn't have to require all of your attention as a parent if you choose to do that in your own home or in your own lives. So I think that's a pretty important point you made, is that it isn't this huge expense, like you have to buy all the tools and resources that a school has.
Amazing. Yeah.
What I also liked about your story is, so obviously you recognize that kids have questions and kids like to explore. I mean, they're born that way, and you're just allowing them to continue doing that in the way that you do best. But also you guys are also going through an inquiry, like you're moving different countries, you're asking questions about education. And so to all those parents out there that are wondering, Like, can I do this? I think that kind of goes back to that. It's like, this is natural for us as humans to inquire and learn new things. So why don't we put it towards things that we actually love and care for, and our kids and our families, in the direction we want to go? So I think you guys are really showing, you know, like, yes, as adults, we can learn new things and we can go off and do it. And you guys are just doing that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bang on. Like, our library at home used to look very different than it does now. But when we brought these little dolls into the world and we were blessed to kind of have them in our care and take care of them, everything changed. It was, you know, well, I wasn't set up for my life. I wasn't set up for the future. You know, I wasn't prepared. I was prepared what high school told me I should know, and then what university told me I should know, and my parents didn't really tell me anything that I should know. So we look at our children. We're figuring life out at 35. If our children can have a really good handle on what life really is about at 15 or 18 or 20, I would be beyond blessed.
This is the other thing too. You know that there's a poem by Khalil Gibran, he's a poet and amazing writer and artist. Anyways, it's a really cool poem. Do you know what it's like? Our children are not our children, right? They're children of the world. And this is what I always go back to. They are their own. I want to give them their autonomy. They're their own person. I don't think it's right that anyone, government, parents, whatever, dictate to someone else what they should learn, when they should learn it, and how they should learn it. Who's to say how another human being should learn something? So this is what I'm always in my head reminding myself of and going back to, because we can fall into that old paradigm of being the authoritarian in their life, which, you know, as a parent, I'm striving hard not to follow suit with, you know, our past, but also striving hard to remember that they are their own little beings. And of course they're children, so they need the guidance, but you know, they're, my gosh, I mean, I've seen, like, not just our children, but you guys have seen it too, other children out there, they thrive in an environment where they get to choose what to learn, when to learn it, and how to learn it. And everyone learns at different levels. So
Margaux, guiding, you know, that is what you guys are doing, is guiding and allowing them their own inquiry and their own exploration. And the level of interest that creates and that internal driver that kids have is, I mean, we see that Tom has a 10-year-old and I have a 14-year-old. And so we're certainly seeing the sort of later stages of that. And I certainly see that as a parent with a 14-year-old who's almost 15, going on 35. You know, the level of independence and accountability when you're allowed to naturally inquire is really quite phenomenal, but it's a little bit scary as a parent. And I think that that's part of what holds people back, is that, you know, as a parent of an almost 15-year-old, she's really out exploring the world quite independently. And there's parts of that are like, oh God, what's she doing out there, you know? And natural fear that I think is something all parents have to a certain degree. But when you know that your child has experienced the world in these unique ways where they're able to be accountable and have the kinds of skills that are needed to really operate in the world, I have so much trust that she's out there making good choices because she's learned how to listen to herself and make good choices for herself. So I think that's really the flip side of that, is that fear is so mitigated by just knowing that your kid knows themselves.
Amazing.
You got it. It's that whole trust. You know, we trust. It's really stressful some days to trust them, but we do. And Maddox, he just loves, I'm just using him as an example, but he loves the woods, and he turned 6 yesterday. But so here's a 6-year-old who's got a compound bow. He's got a razor sharp axe, and loves carrying a knife. So,
but we taught him,
we taught him about these things. And we don't give him an axe that's dull and he can't do anything with. He has a real axe, but he knows how to handle himself. And it's, if he was out somewhere and saw another kid with a bow and arrow, he'd be like, okay, that kid has no idea what he's doing. He knows how, and it's because we trust him. And if we're sitting in the backyard and we see him with it, I'm not worried he's going to shoot us.
Right.
There'll be some parents I know who'll be like, what the heck did they just say? That's a 6-year-old. But you know, they learn at different levels. If you as an adult can see it in them when they are ready, right? Some 6-year-olds aren't ready, some are. But if you can see that, just like a little baby, the child-led weaning, where, you know, the baby's ready to eat, you can just see it. Why hold them back, you know? Just let them eat. And so just this type of philosophy. But yeah, right. I love that.
But I even think like it's trust. Like most parents don't trust their kids to make their own decisions. So the moment you see them with something that you think they shouldn't have, they feel that. So of course something's going to happen. Versus they know that you trust them to do the right thing. And that goes with everything in our life with the kids. And, you know, not every day is a perfect day, but we try very hard and we work on ourselves to definitely follow that path.
Hearing you guys talk about your older kids as well, it's kind of nice because you are the perfect example. I mean, your parents who are doing it this way, and your children, I mean, it's incredible, you know, what they can do. We've seen the opposite as you have as well. I was in the school system for years here in Canada, Eastern Canada. Like I taught at a public school, and I made the decision well before I had my first child that my children aren't going to a public school. In the system, a traditional, you know, formal school where I have to, as a teacher, teach them what to learn. So I've seen the flip side of that, where some kids are 20 years old and don't have the basic skills that that they would have learned. We've kind of beat it out of them, right?
Well, I think that speaks to what we're trying to do with Rethink Thinking is really support. You know, there are many kids in many different kinds of schools in the public system, in the independent system, and certainly in a variety of different types of learning environments, especially locally. Like the options are endless, and that regardless of where you go to school or don't go to school, that there's some really, really important skills and experiences that our kids, even more so than any other generation, need to experience. So it augments any kind of education to really be able to explore in this way, in a way that a system can't necessarily support. And it's certainly our system in BC is moving so much closer towards where it needs to be than probably any other system in the world right now in many ways.
We're definitely leaders here.
Yeah, for sure. And what we're trying to do is support that as it's happening and show examples of what this looks like in action, so that kids can really experience that and start asking for it. Because when they have that experience and they understand, especially if they've come from a world or a system in which that hasn't been an opportunity for them in that way, they then experience it and go, oh, like this is what fires me up. This is what puts a fire in my belly. And they get it, and they immediately want more of it, and they start asking for it. And I think that's where the real change is going to come from, is that our kids just have much bigger expectations and much bigger ownership of their own learning.
Yeah, it's nice to see that happen in BC. Like it's really nice, because that's like, we use Europe as an example all the time with their type of schooling and delayed, you know, they don't have to learn to read till they're 7, 8, which is great. And I think it's really has to happen from the top up, from the level that it's happening in your province, because it can't happen like teachers. I've been firsthand, you know, when we in the system, it's really, really difficult. Everything's against the teachers to be able to do it this way within our current system. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, there's a hope for the future.
Hope for the future.
So taking this from education, and we're talking about parents and teachers and all that kind of stuff. So what's the deodorant stuff that we started the conversation with in this interview? And tell us a little bit about, you know, because that's essentially one big inquiry, right? Like there's something that you didn't like or you didn't understand, so you dove in and tried to figure things out. I mean, who thinks of trying to produce a deodorant when they've got like thousands of choices out there? So maybe you could just kind of dive in about why would you do something like that?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. If you want me to start. Yeah. I promised I wouldn't be the talker of this interview, so.
I didn't even promise that, Margaux.
Yeah.
But I know better, so I'm just like, please go ahead.
No, I'm doing better, guys. But I'll just start really, really briefly, because, you know, Josh and I have been on this journey now for 8 years. We know natural deodorant from the ground up. It's crazy. Oh my God.
I should have brought mine.
Margaux found this at the bottom of my computer bag.
We literally share one now. We're in relaunch. Anyways, long story short, this is how it happened. we, you know, this journey that we've been on, it's a story. Like, we were sick years ago. We actually, like, we were so, we were eating like a sad American diet, for real, like years and years ago, before my
fast food binging out of this.
My children were born, our children were born. And anyway, we ended up like, and I ended up at the hospital and all of this story. And then what happened is we had an amazing doctor in our life in BC, in Kelowna, tell us, listen, you know, you don't need anything. You need to like switch your diet. You need to just make these changes. And he pulled out a bunch of supplements. And he said, you need this. He was incredible. He really was, he put us on a path to where we're at today. So we started slowly cleaning up our life. My migraines went away, everything, all the good stuff happened in our life. We got healthier. We changed all products except one thing we couldn't find was natural deodorant that worked. You know, we tried them all. And so we hit the kitchen. You know, I remember being pregnant with my second child, holding my first child, and Josh making the pot that we were stirring stirring the deodorant on. And that's how we started. And then it grew out of our kitchen. And today it's in,
but then a year and a half ago, we shut it down.
That too. But yeah, it grew out of our kitchen. We had it in stores and it was okay. It wasn't the best natural deodorant out there. We're going to be honest. It was just like a formula that we took by studying ingredients that absorbed odor and sweat. But some people were irritated. And so we shut it down. We hit we went to our formulator and spent 6 solid months reformulating, and that's the product we have today. So, but
everything about it changed, right?
Yeah, you can continue from there.
It's about the inquiry. Like it got to a point in our life where you guys, you can choose anything you want to do with your life. Like it's why do we want to own a deodorant company, a natural deodorant company? You can own anything. And so a year and a half ago, it was that discussion, and we shut it down. And it was literally like, well, who are we at our core? You know, we're these plant-based, natural, planet-loving, connected parents that, you know, give a shit about a lot of things. So it's like, you know, if our product can't represent that, then we shouldn't be doing it. So everything about the product represents who we are. And, you know, there's a segment of people in the world who have the same belief. The packaging's biodegradable. It's made from recycled paperboard. The product itself is plant-based and vegan, and you could eat it. It's that safe. And everything about the company, everyone who works for the company is an attached stay-at-home parent. It's just this amazing thing that transformed over the last year and a half, but it was all questions. It was like, why are we doing it this way and not that way? It's why do no natural deodorants actually work? And it was getting those answers and then saying, okay, now that we have the answers, let's improve this.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's just, and to bring in the point about doing this for other parents who are, because we are leading our children through an inquiry base, like they're totally in charge of everything that they're learning. And many parents ask us how we do it with our company, because a lot of parents are entrepreneurs like you guys, right? You have a lot on your plate as well, like the company and your children and everything going on. But I love talking to parents about that and how we bring our children right into it. Our children are still actually, our parenting is priority, but it just fits, you know, what we're doing. I can go on about this. Can you take over?
Yeah. Our kids are as much a part of this since the beginning as really we are. So, you know, I remember Maddox when he was a year and a half, and in which is now one of their special rooms in the house, but we had boxes of packaging stacked in there and like ingredients stacked in there, and he went in there and ripped open a bag of kaolin clay, and it was everywhere. And we have pictures of him kind of sliding through it like a fish. But ever since the beginning, like even when we lived in Florida for a while, Maddox and Olivia, they were like, you know, helping like unwrap packaging and get them ready and label things. And like Olivia was a year and a half and Maddox was 3.5, but they've always been a part of it. And last year, because of this, we've never pushed business on them. We've always been self-employed. So this past summer, Maddox, on his own free will, wanted to start a business called The Happy Frog, because he sees that, you know, we run a business and we have a flexible lifestyle, and he's always a part of that. And he started The Happy Frog, which was made this wagon and went to the park with healthy snacks and treats, and he had flags and balloons and bubbles to attract kids, all his own thing. We let him figure the whole thing out. Everything he sold was his own thing. He sold crayons. He sold half crayons for half price. But anyways, it was everything he had. It was his own thing, but it was
Cool.
brilliant. It was all just because you're willing to ask the question to go down that path.
Well, that, and you guys are leading by example, right? And you're not kind of keeping work at work and home at home. You're just, it's your life, and you're mixing and mingling all that stuff, and your kids get to see that. So it's a great example for them to see, like, yeah, it's okay to keep asking questions. So
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
awesome.
Yeah.
And I think you brought up a really good point, Josh, that one of the things that I think is a misconception around the kind of learning is that it's all about entrepreneurial behaviors or business-like behaviors, this kind of learning. And being entrepreneurial is about solving problems, right? It's like all day long, you're just solving problems, facing challenges, coming up with new ways of doing things. And so whether it's starting a business or a social venture or a project, that helps other people or yourself, it isn't about necessarily business. And I think that's a common misconception. And so as much as your kids are involved in the business or go and take on an entrepreneurial venture, that really is just another inquiry. He was like, oh, what if I did something like my parents did, but I made it like this, and I, brought healthy snacks to the park and all those kinds of things. Often the projects that come out of Rethink Thinking are entrepreneurial, but they're also very much social ventures. And so when you invite kids into, hey, come and be a philanthropist, they're like, I don't know if that's interesting, right? Or come and be a business person or a social entrepreneur. It only appeals to a certain audience, whereas all of our programming is based on come and explore what you love, what you're passionate about, what you want to see different in the world, what you want to change. And ultimately that results in entrepreneurial, socially minded behaviors, businesses, projects, ideas, because kids want to make change. And they want to engage in entrepreneurial behavior. So it's not about business as it is about just making change and exploring what matters to you.
What you guys are doing is incredible. And the earlier parents see it, like the younger the children are, obviously, I mean, it's so much better to adopt this idea younger. Although it'd be really cool to see someone who's been through the traditional system, right? And then come to a system or a school like yours and be free to explore and to do their passion. That would be really cool for me to see.
Well, you have to come November 17th.
Yeah. Get on a plane, guys. Come on out.
We would love that.
You should come join our human library.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun. I think, okay, so I know we don't have a ton of time, so I just want to ask one more quick question because I feel like it's something maybe other people might be interested in too, is I'm really curious now that maybe there's something that we don't know about that you guys might be exploring as a couple, as a family, or in your business, anything that you're exploring that you're excited about that you maybe haven't told anybody about yet?
Oh, well, we are exploring, we love the idea of sustainable, like off-grid living. We love that idea. We don't love the idea of living like in, how do I say this?
200 years ago.
Yeah, like, without, like, we need our sort of modern, like luxuries that we have grown to love and rely on. So we're exploring these building techniques, like built from the earth, where you don't use the resources of the earth. And you have like a garden and all this, but still very sort of in luxury, I guess. And it's really fascinating. So
yeah, it's been a journey. It's kind of the next logical step for our life is it's unfolded. So we want to build a very sustainable homestead, and just live in the woods on a farm and be, very conscious entrepreneurs at the same time. Yeah. I just cut it back from Margaux, so it was getting a bit long.
No, I love it.
But
you mentioned the woods.
But
so.
Yeah, and that's for our children. They just thrive to be on a farm. They thrive to be around animals. They thrive to want to garden. They thrive to want to learn about like growing worms and growing soldier flies and all of this process, and they just want to be in it. So that's kind of been our journey. And then we've only talked to a few people about that, but every single individual entrepreneur that we've spoken to about it, they're like, when you find a piece of land, I want to build a house on it too. So not even thinking of anybody else. It's just like, wow, I guess a lot more entrepreneurial families want to live this way, but it's a big undertaking.
The other aspect of that, Tom and Rebecca, and I'll stop at this, is the it's been well documented that families and children who grow up sort of in the woods or on a farm or in the dirt are healthier. They've documented long-term health benefits of being in nature with using your hands in the dirt and in farm and around dander and animals. Like it's their immune systems are way, way stronger. So that's the other aspect that we're exploring and looking at and learning about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's an interesting exploration for sure, and one that I'm interested in. I don't know about you, but I look at tiny homes and different communities and different, I'm always exploring that stuff too, because I'm so intrigued by just different ways of living and being more sustainable, and ultimately being just much more self-sufficient, and not relying on.
That's the thing. It's about being self-sufficient and being able to, most people, they couldn't put a fire on if they had to. They couldn't cook their own food if they had to go catch it and cook it. It's this teaching these skills to our children so they can feel that, oh, I could take care of myself. I'm lost in the woods. We want to make sure that our children, even at 6, hey, Maddox, if you got lost in the woods, what would you do? Oh, well, first thing I would do is I would go get these little sticks and these sticks and this type of wood and this thing, and then I'd make a little fire and I'd be warm. And
so they each have their survival book bag now, and they're learning about the things to put in it, right? So it's very cool.
But anyway, so next step for us is probably going to be a sustainable community more than just our own sustainable house.
There you go.
And it's going to be in British Columbia. That's
of course, because you have to be closer to us, obviously.
Exactly.
That's the whole reason, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excited that. Yeah.
Well, we are so grateful to you guys for taking the time today and chatting with us, because I think it's just it's a really interesting conversation to have, and I think it's
just to share the stories, right?
Yeah. And I think kids, parents, teachers, everybody's interested in just different ways of looking at the world, and we just really appreciate your insight, and you guys have done so much in your young lives, and I'm really excited to see where your next journey takes you.
Where your exploration, what matters.
Yeah.
What matters to you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. And likewise, you guys, you're very inspiring to us. So
very much so. It's we're very blessed just to be on here. Just what you're doing is incredible.
Well, ditto.
Likewise.
We love you guys. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.